The human delegation waited patiently in the docking bay of the massive Galvatory starship, ready to depart for the Interstellar Alliance summit on Orion Prime. They were prepared for the usual gawking and whispers from the various alien races who had rarely, if ever, seen a human in person before. What the aliens were not prepared for, however, were the bizarre and terrifying creatures accompanying the humans. Are those? Vzorix gasped, an insectoid Vzorix diplomat, mandibles clicking in distress. The heavily muscled beasts had razor-sharp teeth and claws capable of shredding most metals. The Vzorix were an apex predator species from the death world of Drexus, infamous for being virtually unkillable and nearly impossible to tame. Yet here were two of the nightmarish creatures, calmly following the human ambassador, as if they were common domesticated pets. One Vzorix affectionately bumped its huge head against the female ambassador, nearly knocking her over. She laughed and scratched behind a stubby auditory nerve stalk. "Who's my good boy? Hey, ma'am?" "That's right, Remus, you're such a good boy." Remus growled happily, serrated teeth glinting. The Vzorix diplomat felt its compound eyes nearly leap from their stalks. This had to be some kind of trick. Vzorix would never allow themselves to be domesticated, especially not by soft, tiny, clawless humans. It backed fearfully away down the corridor, reconsidering if attending this year's summit was truly worth the risk. At the reception that evening it became clear that Remus and Romulus, as the ambassador had named the Vzorix, were perfectly friendly, to humans at least. They maintained a respectable distance while the delegates mingled, only occasionally padding over to nuzzle the ambassador or sniff curiously at the attaché case carried by one of her aides. When greeted or praised by a human, Remus and Romulus were the picture of obedience, playfully flopping over to expose their armored bellies for scratches. But whenever an alien delegate drew too near, their behavior shifted. Lips curled back from jagged teeth, muscles coiled tightly as if ready to pounce, claws digging furrows in the polished marble floors. The message was clear: humans were under the Vzorix's protection. One unfortunate Galvatory server discovered this when their balancing pole tipped too close. With lightning speed, Remus snatched the pole in his jaws, crunching the sturdy metal spikes between his teeth. The server went tumbling backward while Remus glared, a tense standoff developing until the human ambassador intervened. "Remus, drop," she ordered calmly. After a reluctant pause, Remus spat out the mangled pole and trotted dutifully back to the ambassador's side. "Terribly sorry about that," said the ambassador to the furious Galvatory delegation head, "but you know how protective Vzorix get with their humans." And their humans. This only deepened the mystery and unease for the rest of the summit attendees. Humans had made first contact less than 50 solar cycles ago, an insignificant eye blink in galactic terms. How could they possibly have developed so quickly such an inexplicable kinship with one of the deadliest hunter species in the known universe? Rumors and theories abounded in the aftermath of the reception. The human ambassador made little effort to explain the bond between man and Vzorix, casually referring to them as beloved pets. Even got them as pups, they overheard her remark. Pups. The idea of tiny, harmless Vzorix infants was absurd, yet so was a full-grown Vzorix willingly obeying the commands of scrawny, dull-clawed apes. In between trade negotiations and scientific exchanges, Remus and Romulus continued happily trotting alongside their humans. They were given a wide, anxious berth by the other delegates but otherwise seemed content. Until the last day of the summit. The amphitheater bellowed with fierce argument as the Alliance members debated mining rights in the Omega Taurus stellar nursery. When a bulbous Porlu delegate seized the human ambassador's notes in its slimy feeding tentacles, Remus and Romulus finally took action. Before the humans could react themselves, nearly 700 kilos of muscle, sinew and jagged teeth propelled both Vzorix towards the offending Porlu. Chaos erupted in the echoing chamber. The Porlu's high-pitched squeals pierced the air as it frantically zipped away on its hoverpad, dripping viscous waste fluid in its terror. The Vzorix's roars rebounded deafeningly off the tiered stone benches where delegates stampeded towards any exit they could reach. Within seconds, the testy arguments had degraded into pure pandemonium. The human ambassador's voice cut sharply through the chaos. "Remus, Romulus." Stand down. The authority in her tone gave even fleeing delegates momentary pause. To their collective shock, both Vzorix instantly halted their pursuit and returned to the ambassador's side, heads ducked apologetically. Order was shortly restored, although the Porlu delegate kept an exceedingly wide radius from the human section. In the aftermath, the Alliance Council reluctantly acknowledged that the Vzorix had been acting purely on fierce instinct to protect their adopted human pack. No sanctions would be imposed for the incident. Still, as the summit came to a close, few alien participants did not look forward to a merciful return home and respite from humans and their terrifying deadly companions. Word spread quickly throughout the galaxy of fearsome Vzorix utterly devoted to puny humans, heeding their every command. Holovids of the docile pair with the ambassador got billions of inquiries. Both disgust and wonder were expressed at this seemingly unnatural relationship. But the Vzorix pair were merely the first glimpse of Earth's previously unknown affinity for taming savage beasts. Later diplomatic envoys brought even more astonishing creatures. 300-kilo Smilodon fatalis specimens from Earth's prehistory, entrusted to gently carry human children on their backs. Towering Reek-Health fighters from Karnak 7, bearing human riders on their feathery shoulders. Even a pair of aquatic grath sharks acquiring an odd taste for being stroked along their hides by their human partners. Theories multiplied over how such a relatively primitive species could so easily earn the trust of some of the most violent creatures in the known universe. Telepathic manipulation? Powerful pheromones? None of the hypotheses seemed to fit. The humans, for their part, remained characteristically silent aside from the occasional cryptic reference to something called puppy dog eyes. As time passed, astonishing new human-alien partnerships continued sporadically appearing at gatherings across Alliance space. But the proliferation of so-called human pets slowed as the population took an increasingly guarded view towards unsupervised interaction with the peculiar species. Large swaths of Terran fauna were preemptively classified as invasive following rumors of human diplomatic cargo holds transporting unknown bioforms off-world. Trade in Earth creatures became highly regulated, limiting humans' opportunities to unleash unfamiliar dangers. For a short period, there was hope the humans might desist from collecting ever more alarming beasts. Then came first contact with the Croxum. The insectoid death dealers ruled over their bleak volcanic world virtually unchallenged. Covered in icy exoskeletons, they were faster, stronger, and better armed biologically than any rival. Only the hardiest detridivores could eke out an existence hiding in Croxum hives' refuse piles, too pathetic to be deemed worth expending the minute calories to eradicate, or so it had been for eons, until the humans arrived. When curious humans made first contact with the Croxum, they immediately dropped to all fours, diurnal eyes disappearing behind bizarre nictitating membranes in apparent terror. This delighted the Croxum commander. Until the bizarre apes began excitedly stroking the deadly razored limbs nearest them, making odd rumbling noises in their respiratory cavities. The razor edges should have sliced their pudgy hide instantly to ribbons. Instead, the humans persisted gently caressing and rubbing the deadly appendages, remarking on the Croxum's sleek beauty and lovely coloring. Unnerved but intrigued, the commander allowed the humans to live and took them captive. Caged back on Crox Prime, instead of cowering in terror or begging for release, the bizarre softskins seemed positively thrilled at removing parasites from their captors' carapaces and lavishing them with odd tactile stimulation. The antisocial Croxum were instinctively appalled yet oddly fascinated. Rough carapace segments which had gone untouched for endless brutal life cycles were smoothed and polished under diligent human manipulation. The relief was undeniably pleasant. Soon, Croxum hive queens across the planet demanded these ingenious new servants for their own harems. Competing hives raided each other in vicious battles to claim any wandering human captives. Croxum, who had originally helped subdue worlds for their vicious empress, began vying for honored roles, pulling human contraptions for physical transport. Hierarchy shifted radically almost overnight. Drones who attracted affectionate human attention gained status and privilege, while even high-ranked commanders found themselves suddenly out of favor for harming the peculiar pets. The bewildered Alliance first learned something was amiss when a massive Croxum war fleet appeared unexpectedly at Orion Prime. Fearing another ruthless invasion, defense forces mustered futilely against the vast armada until a tiny diplomatic shuttle emerged pleading in perfect Croxic for any humans to return home for much-needed R&R. Apparently, the humans had not technically been abducted at all. Having cajoled most of a planet to cater to their every need and transport them anywhere in the galaxy they wished on a moment's whim was simply the newest feat attributed to humanity's strange power over ferocious alien races. Now, when pondering Earth and its inhabitants, non-humans oft repeat an ancient Terran adage: fear not the warrior who has trained 10,000 kicks once, but instead fear the warrior who has trained one kick 10,000 times. for when it comes to disarming apex predators, apparently humanity has long perfected that single devastating kick.